Hey treaties, let's sweeten things up. Stay tuned for personal travel recommendations and a tasty cooking demo. Roll that intro. Hey, I'm Christine and welcome to my channel where we explore travel destinations and the eats that go with them. Today, we are going to make a classic dessert that is beloved in the South. This dish has numerous variations, but no matter what variation you go with, it's best served with a big scoop of ice cream. This dish is sweet, simple, and something that you'll be definitely going back for seconds. But first, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. Let's get started.
London, UK. Top things to do when visiting London include checking out the Towers Bridge, or the iconic quote-unquote London Bridge, visiting Buckingham Palace, and having a bite at Borough Market, a food lover's paradise with food trucks, coffee shops, and more.
Today's dish reminds me of the summer that I went to a farm with my parents to pick fresh fruit. It was an organic farm, and I can remember thinking that I've never worked this hard in my life for food. A great memory nonetheless, but we left the farm with about 5 to 10 pounds of fresh blackberries. With so many blackberries, I decided to make my first blackberry cobbler. So what ingredients do you need for blackberry cobbler? Of course, you need blackberries. So these are frozen blackberries, about 32 ounces. But you can use fresh blackberries if they are available. More than likely it's going to be summerish, fall, when they'll be cheaper. But if you got the money, go ahead and splurge for the fresh blackberries. But I will say that the taste is pretty similar. However, I do like the fresh blackberries better. I've had it both ways, but I will say this is still good with the frozen. We also have your typical ingredients that you need for dessert. We have brown sugar, white sugar, butter. No dessert is good without butter. We have a half of lemon here, which we will be using the zest and lemon zest and also the juice from the lemon. We have a little bit of almond milk. You can use regular milk if you want. There's also heavy cream, which you can use, which is also a good substitute. We have a little bit of baking powder, we have some cornstarch, and we have regular flour. Then we have nutmeg, which I love to add nutmeg to everything, but you can also use cinnamon or cardamom or clove if you like. And then we have a little bit of vanilla extract. Also salt, which we'll just use like a dash of to bring out the flavors. Blackberry cobbler is super simple. It just involves two things. So first is the crust, very important. And then the second is just prepping the blackberries. To start the crust, you're gonna start with butter, of course, as your base. So you want it to be slightly softened. You can maybe put it in the microwave or on the stove, a warm stove, for a little bit to have it melt slightly. This is softened butter here. So what I'm doing is cutting it into small cubes so that it'll be easier to manage. This right here is 1 stick of butter. So that is half a cup if you get your butter the other way. You can also use margarine too if you're not a fan of butter, but I love fresh unsalted butter, so that's what I always use. So we've just chopped it up a little bit, you can see there. Then we're gonna add some brown sugar, and then we're also gonna add some white sugar. So you just want enough so it's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio. See here? And I'm just going to blend the sugar and the butter together. It's almost like when you start cookies from scratch. You normally start cookies with butter and sugar. So this is gonna be the same thing. I'm just gonna mix it in there really good until you get a butter sugar paste. I added a little bit of sugar in there, a little bit more sugar in there, so that it's almost gonna feel like a Play-Doh a little bit. So here is what we have. A butter sugar ball. So once you have that, add a little bit of the vanilla extract and then a dab of the baking powder. I don't really measure anything, I just kind of eyeball it. The reason why I do that is so that if you want to make a bigger quantity or a smaller quantity, you don't have to rely on, oh, I need to cut the recipe down this way, or I need to adjust the recipe. You just can kind of look at it and say, oh, I need more of this or I need more of that. I'm going to add a little bit of the almond milk here, break it up a bit. Now it's going to be kind of mushy. That's when we add in the flour to give it more oomph. And I'm gonna add a pinch of salt here. See how I just add a little bit of flour. I'm gonna add a little bit more because you don't want it to be that wet. And keep adding flour until you get the right consistency. It's almost like we're making sweet biscuits to go on top. You can definitely not use your hands for this part. Feel free to use a spoon or a spatula or whatever you want to use for this part. But I like to really get in there to make sure everything is mixed properly. It's just almost clumpy enough to form patties with or form biscuits with, but it's not too clumpy. And when it's not sticking to your hands, then you know it's good. It should be a little stick, but not this much. So here we go. It smells delicious. And this is kind of what we have. So that's gonna be done. I'm gonna take a quick minute to wash my hands and we will prep these blackberries. So we're back, clean hands, and we got the blackberries here. They're already in the pan that we plan to cook it in. So we will start by adding in sugar. So you just want to make sure that all of the blackberries are covered with the sugar. Pretty simple. Then we're going to add in a little bit of the lemon juice. Make sure not to get any seeds in there. Then add a little bit of the zest from the lemon. So this is a zester, and I'm just gonna add a little, not too much. The zest is not really required, but I like it because it adds a little pizzazz onto the dish. So you're not just tasting strictly blackberries, sweet blackberries. And zest is really strong, so that's why I don't recommend adding more than, like I said, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. Add a little bit of the nutmeg now. And this is to taste, so if you want more or if you want less, but I love nutmeg, so I'm just slightly dusting it. This is what it looks like so far. Then you're gonna add the cornstarch. That's what it looks like. Now we mix it all together. You want to make sure that every blackberry is coated with this mixture that you just put in there. And you can pre-mix it in a bowl if you want and then pour it on top, all those ingredients. But I just like to save dishes so and not have to wash so many. So I just mix it all in the pan that I'm gonna make it in. Now the fun part is adding this on top. So I'm just gonna cut pieces off and just kind of drop it. On top of the blackberries. Just making sure to get all of this goodness on it. I love the topping, so I want to try to make sure every bite has some in it. So this is the final look here. This dish is a little bit messy because of the dough to make, but if you have children, it's nice and fun to get them to dig in there and mix it up and help you. What I'm just gonna do is add a little, dust it a little bit more with sugar on top and a little bit of nutmeg. And very lightly, you don't need a lot of sugar. It's just gonna be to have that little extra crystallization on top. I don't know if that's truly what it's called, but I like to add a little crunch on top. And again, just a little bit of the nutmeg. Now it is time to put it in the oven. We're gonna put it in the oven at 350 for approximately 20 to 25 minutes, or until the crust on top starts to brown and the blackberries, you can see them bubbling. Be right back. So we are back with a final blueberry cobbler on our plate. Ovens vary, so it may take more or less time than I initially said. I would pair this with a nice scoop of ice cream, maybe top it with some confectioner's sugar. But other than that, I mean, it's good to go as a dessert, snack, breakfast if you like. But yeah, I think this is a nice, rich dessert. It's very sweet. You got a little bit of the crunchy from the crust on top. So we didn't add water in it initially because the blackberries were frozen. However, if you get fresh blackberries, you might want to add a little bit in there so that it's not so dry, because when you add the cornstarch, it's creating that gooey-ness from it. So the water from the frozen blackberries mixed with the cornstarch gives it that gooiness that you're looking for. The blackberries were bubbling, so I knew that it was ready, and we just wanted to get a little bit more browning on the top here. So ready to try this? Look at that gooiness. And you could taste a slight hint of the lemon. That's good. That crust hits. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at Treat Talk. I'll see you next time. But until then, keep on treating.